Hello everybody and welcome back. If you're new here, my name's Kelsey. Welcome. Today I thought that we could sit down and go over my 2024 Wrapped as well as some of my goals for 2025. I have my candle going here. I've got my coffee in my cute little whale mug. I love this mug so much. And a homemade cinnamon roll. So get yourself a snack, get cozy, and let's get into it. So, for a lot of the things that I include for my 2024 Reading Wrapped will come from Fable, just simply because the breakdowns that they make with their different statistics on their stats page makes it so easy to see different breakdowns. So I'm gonna use that and I'll put them up on the screen so that you can see what that looks like. So first off, my goal for 2024 was to read 20 books. I smashed that goal and ended up reading 27 books, which is awesome. My top reading streak for the year was 35 days. So I read every single day for over a month this year, which according to Fable is in the top 10% of their readers, which I thought was really interesting. My average rating for books was 4 out of 5 stars, which I think is pretty good, but I am hoping that this year that will shift a little bit. As far as their little blurb that describes my reading habits, it says, Supernatural Swoonster, your mix of steamy romance and eerie supernatural thrills suggests you're the type to flirt with ghosts and probably expect them to text back, which I feel like is kind of accurate but kind of not. I feel like for me, from the very beginning when I started using Fable, it really focused heavily on the romance aspect of things, even though most of the books I read were not romances. I did read a series that was a romantasy, so it was part romance, but it was also part fantasy. So, I don't know, the whole steamy romance, I don't really get. I do like romance, but I like more of the kind of giddy, like makes you giggle type of romance, not the kind of steamy, smutty romance. So, I don't know. That's the only thing that I don't necessarily agree with that, but I do think it's funny that it says that I would flirt with ghosts and I expect them to text me back. I do think that one's funny. So yeah, the next little graphic from Fable is their little will that I wanted to share, that they kind of break down the different genres that you read this year. So the first one is fantasy, which is the pink section. I read 19 fantasy books according to Fable. Romance is the white section. I read 14 romance books. Young adult is the light gray section, which is 11 books. Historical fiction is the dark gray section, which is 10 books. And mystery is the purple section, which is 8 books. Now, this is the one little graphic from Fable that I personally sometimes have a bit of a problem with, because I don't necessarily agree with those breakdowns. I still thought I would include it because I think it's interesting, but what I wish I had was like a button or something you could click to see what books it's categorizing as which genre, because where's my horror genre? Where is it on my will? I read multiple horror novels this year. It's one of my favorite genres. It doesn't appear on the wheel, which is also something, this is kind of a side rant, but it's also something that I hate about a lot of apps. You can click through like different genres, like it has a section for different genres. You can like click on the button for each genre to view recommended books under that genre. Horror is never one of the genres included. They have thriller, but they don't have horror, and the two genres are not the same. And it kind of irks me. It really does. And I am kind of sad that horror did not make an appearance on my Fable will. So that's one thing that I hope they will update, and also make an option for us to see which books are being categorized under each thing. But yeah, I do think that the fantasy being 19 books, aka the largest section, is accurate. The romance I think is also accurate because, like I said, I read several romanticises. I don't know, but there's that. And then the last little graphic from Fable shows the different ratings of books, so you can kind of see the trend. Mine, I don't think really has a normal distribution. I mean, it kind of does, but not completely. It did, and then closer to the end of the year, it got thrown off. So, I don't know what that says about me. Then I also wanted to share the breakdown of how many books were audiobooks, physical books, or books I read on my Kindle this year. So I read 6 audiobooks, 10 physical books, and 11 books on my Kindle. So physical and Kindle are pretty much tied, which is not surprising to me. I usually am always reading one physical book and one book on my Kindle at the same time, and then every once in a while, if I'm in the mood for an audiobook, I'll listen to an audiobook. So that makes sense to me, actually. So now, why don't we go over my lowest rated book and my highest rated books. So the lowest rated book that I read this year was All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover. It was the 1 2-star book that I read this year. It wasn't the best to me. It was just basically a lot of miscommunication. I don't know. It was just okay. And the 3 5-star books that I read this year were The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, Mexican Gothic, and Orbiting Jupiter. I love them all for different reasons. The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is one of my favorite books of all time. It is so good, and it's heartbreaking. I love it. Mexican Gothic, perfect horror novel in my opinion. Absolutely loved it. Loved the characters. It was amazing. And Orbiting Jupiter was heartbreaking and a good example of what can happen when the system and adults fail a child. It was pretty sad, but it was very impactful, and so I gave it 5 stars. So now, why don't we get into my goals for 2025? I thought that together we could sit down and decide my reading goal for 2025 and put it into Fable. I am recording on my phone, so I can't do it right now, but I will put it up on the screen. And I am thinking that since I went way over my goal of 20 books this year, and I was only 3 books under 30 books this year, I think my goal should be 30 for this year. So I'll record that and put it up here so you can see 30 books. Locking it in now is my goal for 2025. Other than that, some other goals that I have for 2025 is that I want to read more 5-star books. Considering that only 3 out of 27 were 5 stars this past year, I want that number to go up. I just feel like I read so many books, and I'll start one and I'll be like, oh my gosh, this has potential, and by the end of it, I'm like, this is good, but it's not 5 stars. That happened a lot this year. I want to read more 5-star books. I want more books to have my heart, like, fully. That is what I am hoping for. As far as some books that I can already tell you are on my TBR for this year, the first is the Fair Isle trilogy by Tisonia Odette. Since I read the Entangled with Fae series last year, I'm excited to read this series because it takes place in the same world, but it takes place like I think 20 or so years before the Entangled Fae series starts. So I'm really excited to read that trilogy. I also want to finish the Cruel Prince series. I read the Cruel Prince several years ago, like 2021, 2022, something like that. I really enjoyed it, but I have yet to read the other 2 books in the series, so I want to read those and finish that series. And then I also want to finish the Celestial Kingdom series by Sue Lin Tan. Last year I read Daughter of the Moon Goddess, which is the first book of that series, and I loved it. It's very, the descriptions are very like, how to explain it? Like, it's a beautiful world. It like pulls you in. I'm excited to hop back into that one. The plan was actually to finish that series last year because it was on Kindle Unlimited, but the author actually switched publishers, and that publisher doesn't allow books they publish to be on Kindle Unlimited. So right when I was about to start the second book, they were pulled from Kindle Unlimited, so I wasn't able to finish them this year. But this year, I'm going to finish that series. So that is my 2024 reading wrap up and my 2025 reading goals. I'm so excited for this year and for this journey. So stay tuned to see how this year goes, and I will see you in the next video.